What'd you say, Josh?
It's just a really weird standard. How could there even be a back and forth if he doesn't think he can go?
Right.
It's just weird. Just let him walk off on his own at the end of the game. Why do you got to make that a thing in the middle of the day? I don't know. Whatever. I also don't care. It's Antonio Brown. Oh yeah. And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Monday, January 3rd, 2022, the first NBA Strategy Show of the new year for myself and Adam, at the very least. I assume we had them over the weekend, but I have no idea. Speaking of Adam, he's here. Adam Scher at Ship My Money DFS on Twitter. If you're interested, hit that like button as we get it started. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. We're up to over 70,000 subscribers now. And this show is also brought to you by Yahoo Sports, and we will touch on them in a little bit. Adam, how was your weekend?
It was good. Didn't do well DFS wise, but it's been a couple weeks of losing now, so it means I should win something like tonight or tomorrow.
There we go. I guess
most
your weekend wasn't as good as Alex's?
No, I don't think I'm going to get one as good as Alex's. That's going to be tough to top.
In case you missed it, folks, the boss man bagged a milli yesterday. So kudos to him, as if he's not already exceptional enough, bringing in the old 7 figures yesterday on the NFL slate. Probably not a bad feeling. So congrats to the boss man. We've got 10 games here to talk about. A lot of just absolute disaster, like tire fire teams to talk about. So I'm ready to dive in if you are, because we got a lot to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Starting it off in just the absolute best possible way. I'm really excited to hear how you'll break this one down. The Houston Rockets are 13-point dogs in Philly. Here's the trivia question for you. Adam, what do you think Houston's going to do with Kevin Porter and Christian Wood? Kevin Porter had a tantrum in his last game and left the arena. Christian Wood, similar story, sort of. Missed a COVID test, didn't start, played 8 minutes, was told really not to return. Are Kevin Porter Jr. and Christian Wood going to play today?
I haven't seen an update yet. I think that's a really valid question. They did, at least from what I know, stay dressed as they left the arena, so they haven't been kicked off the team at least. But I have no idea. It's such a weird situation where it could just as easily. I feel like it could be the beginning of the Kevin Porter saga in Cleveland, where it's just he's not allowed in the room because he's throwing food at coaches. Yeah. Or it could just be water under the bridge, 48 hours later. I really have no idea.
So the key piece here, let's just say that everybody is in, and Eric Gordon has a Q tag as well. We get Garrison Matthews and DJ Augustine back. No Şengün or Armani Brooks. If Christian Wood is the starting center for Houston today, how do you feel about him at 6,200 on DraftKings?
I think it's a really good price. I don't really know where that price came from. He's been priced up for a while now, and it's slowly been coming back to earth. But then it's he played 8 minutes last game for a variety of non-basketball reasons, and now he gets a 2K discount. So I think he looks really good if he plays. If he's in the starting lineup, I don't think there's any reason to think you're getting less than his normal 32 minutes, barring foul trouble, injury, anything like that.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I have him in for now, playing 32 minutes. If he does, I think he's in one of the better plays you'll find on DK today, because 6,200 just isn't correct for him. I don't really know what to do with Porter's status. His is a little bit more tenuous to me. I don't think that anybody else really looks like a great play, but if Wood and Porter and Eric Gordon all happen to be out, then we are going to start jamming in Houston. I just don't think we have enough talking points here. The one question I have for you is this: what do you think we see now out of Garrison Matthews for a healthy-ish Houston team now that we have Green back and have Porter back? Does Garrison Matthews just become a bench player now again?
I think so, but I think he'll actually be in the rotation, whereas earlier in the year when the guys were healthy, he wasn't.
Okay.
I
don't have anything else to really talk about for Houston then.
The only conceivable way I could see him starting, assuming that Porter and Wood are playing, would be if they just throw Eric Gordon into the 6-man role. But outside of that, he's not replacing Jalen Green. I'd be surprised if he's replacing Jae'Sean Tate.
Yeah, I think the Gordon process kind of looks good, where Gordon comes off the bench and then probably closes the fourth quarter, plays about 30 minutes in an optimal scenario.
Yeah, you have Garrison Matthews out there as the spot up 3 guy with, Green and Porter, and then Gordon comes in, leads the bench unit, and then the closing lineup has Gordon over Matthews. Like, that would be perfectly fine.
Yeah. Keep your eyes peeled on this one, guys. It's just impossible for us to break down a team where it's not even a COVID issue. It's 2 disciplinary issues from their last time out. We don't really get this one all that frequently, but as you take off Wood and Porter, you just get slightly more of the other guys. But if those guys are all in, I think Wood is really the only guy I'm interested in.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I see it too. Like Tate, Green, Gordon, they're all reasonably priced, but Wood's the only one that I would say is mispriced.
Philly, on the other hand, little bit easier to talk about for the most part. Danny Green is back off of the injury report. Matisse Thybulle is questionable for COVID protocols. Jaden Springer and Miles Powell are both out. Aaron Henry and Tyler Johnson are off the injury report. None of those guys really matter in this case. So we're talking about 10-8 on FanDuel, 11-4 on DraftKings, Joel Embiid, not pulling all that much ownership. Could absolutely nuke Houston today if he has to. Tobias Harris continues to be wildly underpriced on FanDuel, 7,100, pulling some ownership as he should. Maxey, I think, underpriced a little bit on DraftKings, although as we're getting everybody back, I don't know if 34 minutes is what he's really going to play. Maybe that becomes 32. What do you see on Philly today? Absolutely incredible spot.
Yeah, really good spot for them. Embiid, of course, looks good. I mean, it is a 10-game slate. He's a center, so all of the normal caveats apply, but really good spot for him at 11-4. Maxey at 5,900, like you said, he's okay. I'm guessing he plays like 32 to 34 minutes. Certainly isn't going to stand out on a slate of this size. Tobias Harris' salary on DraftKings has come down a little bit, but still I wouldn't say a priority with Embiid in. So I think it's kind of just Embiid, Harris, Maxey look fine. Embiid, obviously the preferred guy of that group if you're ignoring positional restraints.
Woof. I guess I didn't even mention it before for Houston. If Christian Wood is out, Daniel Tice, 3,500 on DraftKings, power forward center. I mean, he's going to have to play like 24 minutes or more here.
No Şengün either.
Yeah. So keep your eye on Daniel Tice. That's probably the easiest piece of this game to talk about. I don't have much else here. We need a lot of information, and we know exactly what we need to do with Philly. If Thybulle ends up out, I don't think it changes anything. You're just going to get more minutes for random people in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, that's how I see it too.
All righty. This one's another weird one too. Charlotte is a 2-point dog in Washington, 224 total. Charlotte is basically back to neutral now. PJ Washington is questionable. I put him in for right now. I don't know how much it matters. The highest owned guy we have in this game on either FanDuel or DraftKings is LaMelo Ball at 4.7%. I'm happy to get to any of the starters, I guess, just because some of these guys are interesting, but they all look like exactly the same thing. They're all basically like a fantasy point per minute guy, except for LaMelo. And I think they're all priced like either appropriately or slightly too high.
Yeah, I still like LaMelo a bit at 9,500. Like, you're likely to get around 34 minutes. We know he's a very, very good 1.4 to 1.5 per minute guy. So 9,500, I think, looks okay. Miles Bridges at 7,400, I think, is mildly interesting. Had way more of him than I probably should have last night. Didn't get full run, but that was also a game where Charlotte was blown out handedly. He played 26 minutes in 3 quarters. I think it's likely you're getting mid-30s if this game's competitive again. So Ball and Bridges, I think, look okay. But for the most part, I think pricing here is pretty much how it should be.
Yeah, I wish I had more to say here, but I don't for Charlotte. Your Wizards, on the other hand, are a very different set of circumstances. They have quite a bit of guys that are interesting. We have no Spencer Dinwiddie, no Rui Hachimura, no Montrezl Harrell, no Thomas Bryant, no Raul Neto, no Aaron Holiday, Brad Wanamaker, or Anthony Gill. Davis Bertans is off the injury report. 37% ownership going to Bradley Beal at 9,100 on FanDuel. 10-4 on DraftKings, still looks good. KCP is in the 20s. Daniel Gafford is in the 20s. Corey Kispert is in the teens. We got Denny around 10% owned. If you like Kyle Kuzma, I hope you're playing on FanDuel today. He's 6,800 there, 8K on DraftKings. I think we're just playing basically anybody that you think is going to play 20 minutes in this game for Washington in an absolute great matchup against Charlotte.
Yeah, fantastic matchup. Beal has been excellent. And I think one thing to point out with Beal here, and I'd mentioned it before the Cavs game the other day on the show, but I didn't really know how to treat it because Beal's been really, really interesting, where last year when Westbrook was out, Beal was fantastic because not only did he get a usage bump, but he got a huge bump in assist opportunities as well. This year without Dinwiddie, it hadn't really mattered a lot. The usage rate would go up a little bit, the assist would go up a little bit, but you also in those games you were getting a lot of minutes from Aaron Holiday, you're getting a lot of minutes from Howell Neto. Now with those guys out, you don't have Wanamaker either, so it's basically Tremont Waters as the only non-Beal point guard that I think we expect to play. You are seeing Beal just kind of dominate everything on the offensive end. So even though he hasn't been as good this year as he has in the past, I do think, one, this is a great matchup. And then two, we are finally seeing him just do everything. And so I do think he looks good. Kuzma at 8K is fine. I mean, it's expensive, but there's still going to be opportunities there in a good matchup. KCP is a reasonable value at 4,900. And then probably the best play, all things considered, is Gafford at 6K.
Yeah. Gafford looking fantastic. He does grade out as my best play from Washington. Ownership is already there, and we know in terms of just like center, like who's the better play today, Daniel Gafford or Christian Wood if he starts?
Probably Gafford.
It's so tight though. Like,
I mean, it's to me it comes down to they're similar per minute guys, and one of them is facing the Hornets and one of them is facing Joel Embiid.
It's true. It's a great point. You mentioned KCP. I think he's probably the easiest guy to like slightly get away from if his ownership is high, just because of his per minute performance. But even still, we should be getting 34 minutes or more for KCP.
I was gonna say KCP is weird because, and just to bring this up because I know it's gonna piss you off, he's kind of like the Braxton Berrios play from yesterday, where like you look at him and you're just like, oh, if KCP is going to get ownership, like I don't know that I've ever been buried by not having KCP before. But at the same time, he's shooting guard, small forward, and 4,900. So like he's going to fit into your lineups easier than Daniel Gafford at center or than a $10,400 Beal. Like kind of no matter what lineup you're building, it's going to be easy to say like, oh, okay, KCP fits there. Cool, move on. It's kind of like, the low per minute guy, but also a very useful piece.
Yeah, shout out to Braxton Berrios' 2 touchdowns in the first hour of the slate. Amazing. Glad I had no part of it. Kispert, Denny, Bertans. I mean, like, there's minutes here for sure. Like, is Kispert that much worse than KCP?
I think the minutes for KCP are more secure. Like with Bertans back, I think that you could still get upper 20s in minutes from Kispert, and Avdia loses some minutes, and we know Gill is out. So I guess I guess you could just kind of make Gill's minutes be Bertans, and then assume that you're still getting Kispert playing, 28 minutes or so. So no, I don't think he's that much worse than KCP. Like I feel better going to KCP, but
sure.
Kispert at 3,900 I think is also a good play.
All righty. Anything else here for Washington?
No.
All righty. Schedule for the rest of the day. This one's easy. NFL strategy show at 11:30 a.m. Adam's going to take a break from that one. Not going to recap yesterday's slate. I think we've got a slightly different look at the recap. We're going to get the boss man, Alex Baker, breaking down his $1 million win yesterday. So make sure you're checking that out. Awesemo betting show at 1 p.m. We've got the Yahoo NFL show at 3. We have the NBA pre-show at 4:15. We've got the NBA Deeper Dive then starting up at 4:45. Adam will be back for that one. I will be back then for NBA Live Before Lock from 6 to 7. And then we've got NFL Live Before Lock from 7:15 all the way up to lock. NBA ownership projections are free today. And our NFL top plays are also free. That was unfortunately difficult for me to say. What's not difficult to say is the Memphis Grizzlies are 7-point dogs in Brooklyn, 218 total. A lot of bodies out for Memphis. Tricky rotation. We're probably going to have to dig into it a little bit. No Dylan Brooks, DeAnthony Melton. Slow-mo now out, COVID. Tillman, Conchar, gone. Zaire Williams, doubtful. No Shaq Buchanan or Sam Merrill. Daquan Jeffries, Tyrell Terry have both signed 2-way deals. So we'll start on Memphis. It's a lot of guys pulling a little bit of ownership. Like Morant's about 10%, Bane's about 10%, Jaren Jackson's about 10%, depending on the site. Adams getting a little bit of love. Looks pretty good for me on 4,900 on FanDuel, but tons of centers to go around. Highest owned guy in this game in the aggregate is Tyus Jones, 4,100 on FanDuel, 4K on DraftKings. Or we can go to $3,800 Brandon Clark, the highest owned guy on DraftKings. I don't know what to do with Memphis. There's too many different options of guys that look all right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of just good plays here, I think. Morant at 9,800, I still think looks good. He played about 32 minutes last game. Typically, I think you're going to get a couple minutes more than that. But we know that the usage goes up without Dillon Brooks. He's been extremely productive in the games he's played without Brooks this year. So I still think he looks good. Tournament shots at guys like Jackson, Bane, Adams are all fine. The Tyus Jones piece is really interesting because he's only 4K flat. You don't have Anderson. You don't have Melton. You don't have Brooks. There's actually minutes for him available, and he's been playing alongside John Morant. He closed alongside him last game. He closed both halves, actually, alongside him last game. He had played 24 minutes the game before as well. So on one hand, I don't know that you necessarily have to get 28 minutes from Jones again, but I think it's pretty reasonable to expect at least 24 at 4K. It just makes him look like a good value. Brandon Clark at 3,800 is another one that for most of the season, he's just been playing behind Steven Adams. There's a chance that he gets run alongside him now. He still didn't last game, which is notable. If he did, maybe it was for like a minute. But for the most part, Clark just backed up Adams. But now you take out Kyle Anderson as well. You did get Aldama back, but at some point, I would think that you get 2 to 4 minutes alongside Adams from Clark, which just kind of moves him from like a 20-minute projection to 24 and makes him look pretty good too.
Yep. We're on the same page there. I gave him 24 minutes. I gave Tyus Jones 26. I think the real question mark here is just we don't really have a good idea of who's going to close in this game. And it could be one of 3 or 4 different dudes. Like Brandon Clark could easily play more at the 4. Doesn't normally, but I don't know. Tyus Jones could play 30 minutes and play a ton alongside Morant or not. Like they can go a bunch of different directions. I'm happy to cast a pretty wide net for Memphis. I think the ownership makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so do I. I think there's just it's a lot of good plays. There's not necessarily one that I look at and say like, okay, well, this is the guy that's going to be in like every lineup, and then I'm mixing in other Memphis pieces. But it's just I think Morant looks very good. I think Adams looks good, but he's a center, so that has its own issues. I would rather get to Daniel Gafford for 600 more or whatever. Jones and Clark look like good values. There is some downside risk to their playing time though, and then I would say Jackson and Bane are like correctly priced, but both still have that ability to give you 40 plus fantasy points.
Anything else for Memphis?
Nope.
All right. On the Brooklyn side, this one's pretty easy. We know what we're doing with this team at this point when everybody's healthy. By the way, Kyrie Irving looking to make his return on Wednesday. No Joe Harris today, no Kyrie, obviously. LaMarcus Aldridge questionable, which is pretty important. If he's in, the only guys that I really have any interest in would be James Harden and Kevin Durant. Harden in particular, 11-4 on FanDuel, 11-3 on DraftKings. Durant is 11-2 and 11-2. I prefer Harden to Durant on DraftKings. I think I might actually prefer Durant to Harden on FanDuel, just given the positional nature and where we have some value today. But those are really the 2 options today. I don't think that you can really play anybody else from Brooklyn. Yeah,
and it's worth noting we've continued to see Harden has really picked it up, even with Durant in. If you look at his numbers with Durant for the entire season, they are pretty similar to what Durant has done in the games where they're both active. But you have to keep in mind that at the beginning of the season, Harden was absolutely awful for one reason or another. He's over the last 10 games they've played together, Harden's at 1.41 DraftKings points per minute. Durant's at 1.27. Harden has a 27% usage rate, 42% assist percentage. If you go over the last 5 games, Harden's usage rate is 28.5%, assist percentage is 42.5%. So you have kind of seen those rates just come up as the season's gone on. So Durant being back certainly still makes Harden riskier. Like if Durant were out, he would just at 11-3, you would just play Harden in like every lineup you possibly can. He's still a very, very good play with Durant back, even though it just makes him a little bit riskier.
Big time super chat coming in from friend of the program, Anthony Davis. Said 2 of the most dope fellas in the game. Appreciate all you do and everyone at Awesemo. Still waiting for Lofty, Josh, and Adam combo. Hit the like button.
Did we used to do that?
I'm sure we did that show from time to time.
I can't remember because like back in the FanVice days, the deeper dive was a 3-man, and I couldn't remember if we like carried that over at some point here or not.
No, that went 2-man to you guys most of the time. Okay. I was like in your ear for it because I was producing it more often than not. I think we've done 1 or 2 shows at least with the 3 of us, but yeah, AD with the big pop. Was that Friday night, Saturday night? I can't remember which night it was, but I think it was 50K. So just off the top of my head, big day for Anthony Davis. Better day for our Anthony Davis than Lakers Anthony Davis. That's for sure. I don't have anything else for Brooklyn. Do you?
Nope.
Well, let's touch on this. Let's say LaMarcus Aldridge doesn't play. What do you want to do with 5K Nick Claxton?
He'll look good. Like I would expect him to play, 30 to 32 minutes.
Okay.
It still kind of just gets thrown into the mix. I mean, we've covered 3 games now, and we already have Adams, Embiid, Wood, Gafford,
Yeah,
maybe Claxton. I mean,
there's never a shortage. Oh yeah, producer Josh drop in when your internet would crash.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
That happened a lot.
Yeah,
it's amazing, like how shitty our streams were 3 years ago, and like how different everything is now.
Yeah, internet in my mom's basement, not the most reliable.
No. All right, we're going to Orlando. So there are 3 games at 8:00 today, Adam, and all 3 of them have 10-point or higher side totals. So like Orlando's a 13-point dog, Detroit's a 15-point dog, Utah a 10.5-point favorite in New Orleans. A lot of ass beatings coming at 8:00. We'll start on the Orlando side. Stop me if you've heard this before, but the Orlando Magic have a few guys out. No Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, Isaac Fultz, Okiki, Lopez, MCW, or Eton Moore. So we'll start on the Orlando side. Wendell Carter Jr., the highest owned guy in this game, 24% on FanDuel, 14 on DraftKings. Franz Wagner getting a little bit of love across both sites. The guy that I'm most interested in is a guy that we don't appear to be giving any real ownership. Should we just be aggressively jamming Terrence Ross in today at 4,400, shooting guard, small forward eligible?
I mean, I think he's fine. I think you're going to get 28 to 30 minutes from him. He's obviously been pretty inconsistent this year. His rates do go up when you're talking about him playing without Suggs and without Anthony. He's got about a 23%, 24% usage rate. So I think he's a good value. I wouldn't say jamming him in, but like certainly somebody that if KCP is going to get 22% and Terrence Ross is going to get 4, give me some Terrence Ross.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's the best play on Orlando.
Probably.
I mean, 4% that just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I'm still gonna be more confident looking at like my Wendell Carter lineups than my Terrence Ross lineups, but that also comes with a price increase.
Sure. I mean, like we're assuming Terrence Ross starts here, right?
No.
Played 35 minutes 2 nights ago or yesterday rather, OT, but call it 30. I mean,
no, I'm assuming he plays off the bench and closes like he normally does.
So that would be Tim Frazier, Harris, Wagner, Carter, and who's the 5th starter?
Is Bamba out?
No, he's available. Played 18 minutes yesterday.
Okay. I was gonna say unless I missed news that he was resting, I assume Bamba.
Did he start yesterday?
Yeah.
18 minutes too?
Yeah.
Did he get into foul trouble or was he just not ready for it?
He was just limited.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Terrence Ross off the bench, 28 minutes. That works for me. I just assumed that Bamba didn't start. I didn't even look into it once I saw his minutes. Just didn't like, if you look at the minutes for that game, you're going to have a hard time assuming that Mo Bamba was the starter if you just look at like raw totals.
Yeah.
Like there's a very clear line in the sand of 5 dudes that played and 5 dudes that didn't.
Yeah, I mean, my assumption is that as Bamba plays more, the first guy to lose minutes is going to be Schofield. Brazdeikis' 7 minutes can go away.
Yeah. Yeah, I gave Bamba 22. I don't have a clue how many he's actually going to play today.
Right. I'll probably go like 22, 24, somewhere there. It won't matter. I'm not going to get him. Carter's going to look good regardless.
Yep. All right. Well, I still like Terrence Ross quite a bit at 4% ownership, but it is a little bit tamer than where I had him previously. Carter obviously looks good. Tim Frazier is a reasonable value play. I mean, basically just play the guys that can play 28 or more minutes for Orlando if you want. I don't have much else to say here. This is not likely to be close. We'll go to Chicago. DeMar DeRozan, assuming he's just going to hit a buzzer beater again today, so you got to post him in for at least 3 fantasy points. 17% owned on FanDuel at 8,700. No one in double digits of ownership on DraftKings. These guys are just a lot more expensive on DK. So what are you doing with the Bulls?
Good matchup for them, obviously. Pricing, I think, is pretty much where it should be across the board. Likely to have Lonzo back, I think. So, not even on the injury report. So,
yeah,
it's Kind of, it's like Lonzo coming back isn't a huge deal, but it does take assist opportunities away to some extent from Vooch, Levine, DeRozan. They're still going to, dominate usage here. It's not like Lonzo is a high usage guy, but still, I think just kind of makes them tournament options. Vooch probably looks the best, but he's also a center. Levine at 9,900, DeRozan at 9,300 are both fine, but I wouldn't say priorities, even though it's a good matchup.
Any interest in $5,400 Kobe White at no ownership? I'm assuming he still starts.
No, not really, because I don't think, even if he starts, I don't think he has to play a ton of minutes. And if you get like 28 to 30, I just don't know what he's really doing on the floor with these guys. Like, he's not shooting, he's not getting assists. So, certainly you could run into the, just a hot Kobe White game, but he kind of is just like a useless piece out there, I think.
All right. Anything else for Chicago then for you?
No, it's just the main 3 or 4 as tournament plays, I guess.
All righty. Another beating on the way. Detroit Pistons are 15-point underdogs in Milwaukee, 214 total. Detroit's really difficult to talk about. So coming off of the injury report, we get Killian Hayes, Cade Cunningham, Saban Lee, Trey Lyles, Josh Jackson, and Rodney Magruder back. We have no Jeremy Grant, Isaiah Stewart, Kelly Olynyk, Frank Jackson, Corey Joseph, Isaiah Livers, Derek Walton, or Chris Smith. Cassius Stanley, I believe, is with the G League, as is Trayvon Palmer and Servetus. Not that any of that really matters. So we're getting all these guys back. I don't really know what to do with that information. I think that the place we need to start is Trey Lyles. He's 4,800 on FanDuel, power forward eligible, 4,900 on DraftKings, power forward, center eligible. We've seen Luka Garza play like 39 minutes for the past 2 games. Are you assuming Trey Lyles starts here?
I'm assuming he comes off the bench, but I have no idea. They tried to go Garza last time they played Milwaukee. I do remember that because we kind of laughed at the idea of them trying that, and then they did it anyway, and it went like you would expect it, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so I'm assuming it's Garza for now. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it's not.
Okay. So we did see 37 minutes out of Trey Lyles the last time he was available.
Yeah. If he starts, I think Lyles looks good. If he comes off the bench, I'm not going there.
Okay, that works for me. I have him in right now as a starter. I might have his minutes a little bit over projected. So to me, Trey Lyles is the best play that you're going to get on Detroit, at least from a DraftKings perspective, if he's the starter. Sadiq Bey is still just 7K on FanDuel. I think he's a really nice option. Hamidou Diallo is 7,300. I still think that he's a pretty nice option. I don't think that anybody's going to be getting to 9K Cade in this return. So can you do anything else with Detroit with all these guys back?
I think it gets pretty tough because, like, even with like the Diallo and Bay pieces, like, they're going to play a lot of minutes, but the salaries have come up, and now you are bringing Cunningham back. He's going to dominate usage here. So far, without Jeremy Grant on the floor this season, Cunningham has a 26.8% usage rate. Bay's at 22.8%. Diallo's at 21.8%. Obviously, if you take Cunningham off, those other guys are going to go up, but it just makes it difficult, I think, to feel confident in paying 8,700 for Diallo on DraftKings or 8,500 for Bay on DraftKings.
If Trey Lyles is starting, what's your expectation there? 28 to 32 minutes?
Yeah, it seems about right.
And then a pretty good play for 4,900, considering he gets the power forward eligibility as well.
Yeah.
Go to Milwaukee. Chris Middleton is questionable for personal reasons. I haven't seen what that reason is. Are we playing anybody for Milwaukee here against Detroit?
I'm always willing to play Giannis, but
yeah.
Obviously, keep the minutes expectation in check. Milwaukee is a sizable home favorite here, 16-point favorites. I assume, like, I'll project Giannis for like 29, 30 minutes. He's still like a 1.7 to 1.75 fantasy point per minute guy, so certainly still a ceiling. But at the same time, I think I'd rather get the James Harden just out of expensive guys we've talked about so far, and I don't really see a path to much else on Milwaukee.
And don't worry, you're going to also have no problem getting to Nikola Jokic today with no Monty Morris and half the team too,
that too.
Also still out. So so here's the question. If Chris Middleton is out today, how much more interesting does that get for Giannis or $8,500 Drew on DraftKings?
I think it makes them look a little bit more interesting. The problem is that I think Drew's still kind of priced for that sort of role because that salary increased when you had Giannis out or Middleton out. So, like, if Middleton's out, 8,500 Holiday looks more appealing clearly than it would if Middleton's in. But I still think it's kind of where it should be. I'm pulling up now to see how many games he's played without Middleton and with Giannis since last year. I don't think it's been a ton. 7 total games, 1.11 DraftKings points per minute, 27.7% usage rate, 28.6% assist percentage for Holiday. In those same games for Giannis, he has averaged 1.65 DraftKings points per minute, almost a 35% usage rate, 32% assist percentage. So pretty much status quo for him.
Okay.
So bump for Holiday.
Okay.
Same for Giannis is normal.
Can we get to Connaughton, Allen, anything like that if Middleton happens to be out? We have no Dante DiVincenzo today, sprained ankle.
Yeah, so no DiVincenzo, I guess, solidifies those minutes a little bit. Grayson Allen at 4,300. Like, if you wanted to use him as a non-KCP piece in that type of build, I think it's fine, but it's not something I'd be prioritizing. I assume you would get more Jordan Nwora minutes if Middleton's out. So, like, I don't think he would just be getting all the minutes going to, like, Grayson Allen or Connaughton or anything.
Okay, that works. Anything else you want to touch on here?
Portis still only played 21 minutes last game. He did have some foul issues, but I think you're probably still looking at like a 28-20 split, something along those lines with Cousins.
All righty. Yahoo Fantasy Sports, the presenting sponsor of today's NBA strategy show. We got a deal for you if you're interested in checking out Yahoo. You can go to awesemo.com/Yahoo-promo if you want. You can get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. You can also receive a $10 credit plus an additional $25 when you make your first deposit using the promo code Yahoo10. That's YAHOO10, one big word. Tonight's got the 50K Yahoo Baller contest. Payouts go out to over 1/3 of the entries, so make sure you're getting in that one. It's got a great, it's just a great payout structure in general. We have Yahoo DFS tools and projections at awesemo.com that could help you win big. So take advantage of the deal. A month of free Awesemo Plus Platinum plus some deposit bonuses. You can't really beat that. Adam, you're not going to project tonight's game to go to OT for Orlando?
Yeah, not going to do that.
Utah Jazz.
Kyrie's not back, for whoever said that in chat.
Yep. That's amazing. Utah, 10-point favorites in New Orleans, 216 total. And you know what we're doing here. We basically have the Jazz back to normal. Q tag on Hassan Whiteside, concussion. Q tag on Eric Paschall, personal reasons. This is the Utah Jazz team that we normally get, which means I don't mind getting the $8,600 Donovan Mitchell on FanDuel. You can talk me into a share in random lineups with basically any starter. I don't really have a ton of interest in playing the Utah Jazz today.
Same. I think Gobert is the only one that looks like underpriced for his production, but then when you factor in the opportunity cost, he's not really he's not that underpriced. So yeah, I mean, obviously any amount of Mitchell, Gobert, Conley, Boyan, Clarkson, O'Neal that end up in my lineups, I'm fine with, but just don't think it's going to be a lot outside of using them as contrarian pieces in tournaments.
Yeah, like Royce O'Neal is your KCP type pivot, again, different position, but like you're getting sort of the same kind of guy in the same sort of minutes. Either way, Utah's very easy to talk about. You know who's not easy to talk about? That would be the New Orleans Pelicans. Questionable tags on Brandon Ingram and Jovel, left Achilles soreness and COVID protocols. We have no Tomas Satoransky, clearly no Zion. We got a lot up in the air here with Jovel and Brandon Ingram. I have them both in, at which point I don't really think that anything is all that interesting outside of $4,100 Nikhil Alexander-Walker, maybe $6,800 Josh Hart. If Ingram or Jovel start getting ruled out, we'll get a little bit more interesting stuff going to either Willie Hernan-Gomez or Jackson Hayes. What do we do with this Pelicans team right now?
Sorry, I was still looking up Terrence Ross stuff. So just one other thing to point out, the last 3 games argument, prior to last game, his last game was December 15th. I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing Orlando was really shorthanded then. So wouldn't just be careful about reading into minute totals, not looking at anything else.
Yeah, Terrence Ross took a crisp 7 games off in between that stretch. So,
yeah,
you know.
As far as the Pels go, though, getting Valanciunas back potentially would obviously make him look decent, but he's also expensive. Same goes for Ingram. Tough matchup. He's expensive. If Valanciunas is out, it opens up a lot. You potentially get $5,100 Hernangomez. But assuming that Valanciunas and Ingram are in, I think you said it, but $4,100 Alexander Walker is really like the only thing I see on DraftKings.
Are they going to Jackson Hayes now over Willie Hernangomez?
I don't really know. I don't know what they've been doing all year.
Willie Hernangomez played 6 minutes on the 28th. That was with Joval. Jackson Hayes played 25. Jackson Hayes played 27 and a half, their most recent game. Willie Hernangomez played 20.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of the thing that when Valanciunas first went down, I pointed it out. Like, Hernangomez has been the backup to Valanciunas, but it can be really difficult for coaches to stomach Hernangomez playing actual starters minutes.
Yeah.
And my assumption is that's kind of what's happened, is that, Hayes he's better defensively and they want him out there. But if Valanciunas is out, I think it's still reasonable to expect some sort of 24-24 split between the two.
Jackson Hayes, 3,900 on DraftKings. Willie Hernangomez, 5,100. However, FanDuel, Willie Hernangomez gets power forward center eligibility, 4,200. Jackson Hayes is just power forward and 5,200. Do your best on trying to figure out how the hell any of that makes sense, but just putting that out there for right now. By the way, Joval, 7,700 on FanDuel. I think he looks good, not great, if he is back. I just don't know what kind of run he's going to get. And since they certainly do have two other centers that they're willing to play, I don't know if he just dives back into his upper bound of minutes, but $7,700 Joval is always going to look pretty interesting on FanDuel.
Someone in chat asked if we were willing to leave spots open for this game. I'm not going to be too worried about it. For one, there's a good chance that we're going to get this news before the 7:00 lock anyway. But I don't care that much about. I don't want to do anything different to my lineups just to possibly get bench players from the Pelicans against the Jazz.
You don't want to try to get more Herbert Jones? Would that be beneficial to you at all?
I deserve that after the Braxton Berrios comment.
All right, we're going to Denver now. You don't have anything else for the Pels, right?
No.
Okay. Denver Nuggets, 2.5 point dogs in Dallas, 212 total. Man, that was satisfying. So things aren't looking all that great for the Denver Nuggets, but they are looking great for Nikola Jokic. Monty Morris out, Jeff Green out, no Jamal Murray, clearly. No Bones Highland, Zeke Naji, or Marcus Howard. We get Bol, Vlatko Konkar, Jermichael Green, and Austin Rivers back in. So 11-5 on FanDuel, 12-4 on DraftKings. I believe we would like to call this guy the best pay-up option on the slate.
Yeah, pretty much always is, and no reason to think he's not tonight. Without Morris or Porter on the floor this year, Jokic played 168 minutes. He has a 39% usage rate, 33% assist percentage, 27.5% rebounding percentage. He's averaged 1.93 DraftKings points per minute. If you just, don't even worry about Morris, just look at the rates with Barton on and Porter off. Jokic is still in 459 minutes at 1.79 DraftKings points per minute. He's the best per minute fantasy producer in the league. It's a perfectly fine spot for him. There's no real negatives here outside of he's a center, and you can certainly get a lot of upside for a lot less at the position.
Yep. Yeah, he looks great, as he usually does. How does the rest of Denver look now that we're missing a bunch of guys? We've got Facundo Campazzo likely stepping into a bunch of minutes. We've already seen him do that unowned, basically. Salary is already up. I don't know. Is Austin Rivers at 3,400 shooting guard small forward? I think he might be a KCP pivot for today as well. He's atrocious from a fantasy perspective. I think Will Barton is probably the most interesting piece of this game that isn't Nikola Jokic, although you can make a case for Aaron Gordon. What do you do with the rest of Denver with all these guys out? I thought they'd look better.
Yeah, I mean, DraftKings got their prices adjusted very quickly. Campazzo, with a massive game last time out, certainly has a ceiling here. He's going to play a lot of minutes, but $6K is a pretty tough salary to get to, I think. I'm with you. Barton, to me, seems the most interesting. We know that he's capable of handling the ball. We know he can be used to run the offense when Jokic isn't out there, and he's likely to play plenty of minutes. Only played 29 last game, but lost 4.5 to garbage time. It's likely you're getting around 34 minutes or so from him. He's played 83 minutes total with Jokic on the floor without Porter or Monte Morris this year. He's at 1 fantasy point per minute, 23% usage, 22% assist percentage. So I think Barton looks okay in tournaments, but at 6,200, not a priority there. The only thing I really like from Denver is Jokic.
Same page, man. Same page. Then we go to Dallas. Dallas getting right. Now, Porzingis is probable. Q tags on Trey Burke and Ja'Cory McLaughlin, which I don't think really matters. Trey Burke sort of could, but Willie Cauley-Stein is doubtful, so I don't get the sense that that really matters. The highest owned guy on Dallas today, on either FanDuel or DraftKings, is 7% owned Luka on FanDuel. Everybody else is below that. I don't see anything on Dallas that actually looks good today.
Yeah, I don't see much either. Luka came back, was limited yesterday. He played like 31 minutes. I would guess that you're getting 32 to 34 somewhere in there tonight. But at 10-9, I'm not really that interested in that. Like, I would much rather be getting my 38 minutes from James Harden for 400 more, or even, Durant for 300 more. Porzingis is priced up for Luka being out. Brunson is priced up. I have absolutely nothing here outside of if Luka ends up in a lineup, fine, whatever. It's Luka. He certainly can do well, but I see nothing that I'm really interested in.
Same page, man. It's bleak for Dallas today. So let's move it on to more interesting teams. This one's weird. We'll talk about Miami Heat, 8.5 point dogs in Golden State. No Duncan Robinson, clearly no Bam, no Victor Oladipo, no Gabe Vincent, Markieff Morris, Dwayne Dedmon, Max Strus, Udonis Haslem, Marcus Garrett. We've got a Q tag on PJ Tucker, which he had the last time out. So I'm going to guess that he's in for this one. Q tag on KZ Okpala. Not sure that one matters as much. We got Jimmy Butler, 15% owned on FanDuel at 9,800, just 5 on DraftKings. Nobody higher than 7.5% on DraftKings right now. I think Caleb Martin looks a little bit better than 7.5% owned today. Tyler Hero, 6,500 on FanDuel is probably my favorite piece of this game, although 1.5% owned Caleb Martin is kind of close to it too. What are you expecting here for Miami? Still incredibly shorthanded.
Yeah, should still get a lot of minutes from these guys. Jimmy Butler was insanely bad yesterday, but still played 36 minutes against Sacramento. Now you get a much better Golden State defense, but still a fast-paced team. 10K for Butler, reasonable. I think that I have other guys I'd rather pay for on this slate, but he is, over $1,000 less expensive than Harden. He's over $2,000 less expensive than Jokic, so he'll fit into some lineups. Yurtseven, I think, looks like the best play at 6,500. Again, you have the center issues. There's just so many good ones on the slate, but should play 30 to 32 minutes here. Hero and Lowry are both fine. I think Caleb Martin's fine. So I'm kind of with you. Like, nobody on Miami outside of Yurtseven, but he has. He's a center. So I don't necessarily think anybody on this team should be pulling a ton of ownership. To say, like, if you told me that any of these guys were projected for like 30%, I would just be like, okay, well, I can find alternatives pretty easily. But at the same time, they still have very, very high ceilings. They're going to play a lot of minutes. They are still missing Bam Adebayo's production. So at relatively low ownership, they do make for good tournament plays.
Should Caleb Martin be owned more than KCP?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Like, I think it should be pretty close.
Yeah, I'm with you. 7% seems wrong in comparison. Like, that's just another easy spot where I think that we can get away from it. I would rather have Martin than KCP just in general, given what's available for Miami. I mean, I'm expecting Caleb Martin to play 36 minutes or something like that in this one. So I like Martin. I like Hero, particularly on FanDuel. Happy to get to Jimmy Butler at that $9,800 price tag. Weird team, though, Miami. Even weirder to talk about the Golden State Warriors, who are basically useless today. We've got still no Klay Thompson, no James Wiseman, but Draymond and Damian Lee are both back. I have no idea how many minutes Jordan Poole can play or Damian Lee. I gave Draymond his standard issue 30. Highest owned guy in this game, either site, 7.8% owned Andrew Wiggins. I think Golden State looks pretty much terrible across the board.
Yeah, it seems like we're getting to that point where like half the teams on the slate are getting to, oh, well, these 3 guys are back and they're all expensive. So there's not a whole lot to say here. From like a tournament standpoint, obviously you're never going to be upset that Steph Curry's in some lineups. Same goes for Draymond and Wiggins. But yeah, I mean, Poole and Wiggins being back, takes some usage away from Curry. You're still talking about the highest usage rate on the team easily, but, talking 36 to 37% instead of, or going from 36 to 37% instead of like 31 to 32. That is an issue when you're talking about somebody being more expensive than James Harden on DraftKings. Yeah, there's just nothing that stands out from this team, I don't think.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I ended up with nothing here. I don't think that Curry looks particularly good. To me, he's very clearly the worst of the pay-up options. Doesn't mean he can't go out there and drop 50 real points. He's the best shooter ever, but I just don't think that anything for Golden State looks good today. And honestly, they might be the worst team on the slate.
I think I'll reserve that one for New Orleans on DraftKings or Dallas.
They're all pretty similar. I'd rather get to I'd rather get to Luka than Curry though. So
I think I'd rather get. It's close.
They're both. Neither one of them's good.
Yeah.
You know what is good though, Adam?
What's that?
That would be our current promo codes for the new year, 2022. So we've got 2 different codes for you. Up to you which one you want to try to use. We can go a couple different directions. If you're not looking to make a big financial spend right now, you can use the program 2022. You'll get 22 days of Awesemo Plus Platinum for $20. You cannot beat that deal. Little over $1 a day. No, less than $1 a day. I did the math wrong. You know what I mean? It's like 90 something cents. You guys get the drill. It's cheap. 22 days for $20. That's everything we have. Player projections, ownership projections, lineup builder, boom bust, Discord, all that good stuff. This offer ends January 7th. So if you're not getting it this week, you're not going to get it ever then on this particular deal. You can see it on the screen right now. Great deal. Now, if you are willing to make a little bit bigger of a spend here, Happy 22, HAPPY 22, you can get 20% off an Awesemo Plus Platinum membership annually. This will be 1 full year of Awesemo Plus Platinum, 20% off. We don't normally do giant discounts for our annual packages. You only see it maybe once or twice a year. This is one of those times. You guys should be taking advantage of this. If you are a subscriber, this is a thing that you should be getting right now. If you know you're going to be with us, don't pay monthly. Get the annual sub. Save yourself a chunk of change. We're going from $1,000 down to $799. So again, 2022 gets you 22 days for $20. Happy 22 gets you 20% off a year of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Told you, we got good deals, Adam. Atlanta, 5-point favorites in Portland. This one is going to cause a lot of conversation. We'll start on the Atlanta side. No Bogdan Bogdanovic, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, Jalen Johnson, Gorgie Jang, or Malik Ellison. However, Kevin Huerter, Cam Reddish, Gallo, Okongwu, DeLon Wright, TLC, Sharif Cooper, and Malcolm Hill are all off of the injury report. I don't have a damn clue who's going to play for Atlanta or how many minutes they're going to play, but I think that Trae Young looks pretty interesting for 9,800 on FanDuel. He's been really good as of late, 1.4 FanDuel points per minute over the last 30 days. I assume Clint Capella is just going to play 30 to 32 minutes and look like a Clint Capella normally does. Cam Reddish is the most interesting piece of this, I think, at 5,400 on FanDuel, shooting guard, small forward eligibility, but I don't know what to do with Atlanta right now. There's too many guys back, and I don't know who can actually play.
Yeah, Trae Young, I think, looks very good. You mentioned the FanDuel price is certainly appealing. Even 11-1 on DraftKings, I think is fine. You know, like I prefer Harden for 200 more, but I think I would rather play Young than Luka. I'd rather play him than Curry. He's played 535 minutes, 1,104 total possessions since last season without either one of Collins or Bogdanovic on the floor. Most of the rest of the team is the same. I mean, you have Capella, Huerter, Gallo, Reddish. Like you're talking pretty much the same other pieces. 40.2% usage rate, 43.9% assist percentage, 1.53 DraftKings points per minute. In a good matchup against Portland. Like there's certainly some sticker shock on Young, but this is someone that can play 40 minutes and average 1.5 fantasy points per minute.
Yep. I think he looks great. How do you approach this game? Just hope we get a little bit more information before lock.
I actually kind of just don't care, assuming these guys are in. Like,
well,
like obviously
I care
what if
they're not.
What'd you say?
That's the thing. Like, what if 4 of them aren't?
Right. Yeah. So assuming, I mean, they're not on the injury report.
Right.
So assuming that they're available, I just don't really care about Atlanta outside of Trae Young and Clint Capella to some extent, mostly just Trae Young. If we get news that they're out, then obviously that matters and you're going to get a lot of minutes available for a lot of guys. But assuming that the players not on the injury report are going to play, then I don't think there's a whole lot to care about outside of those two.
Power forward, center eligible, flat 3K on Onyeka Okongwu. Any interest?
Not really. He's going to, I would assume, play 16 minutes.
That would be my assumption as well. We have him already pulling the most ownership of anybody on DraftKings. He's tied with Trae Young. If he was not getting ownership, I'd be pretty interested in him as a GPP pivot if anything happens to Clint Capella, it seems like Okongwu would just get those minutes and be flat 3K. But other than that, yeah, I'm with you. I've got these guys in, and they're not all that interesting. We're going to have to hemorrhage like 3 or 4 of them to find out. But I'm guessing they all play like just under their normal run, and that makes them all like wildly uninterested. When are you going to admit you are wrong on Luka, Josh? I don't even know what that could mean.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I assume he's leading me to saying that somehow Luka is like some sort of failure.
Yeah, it seems like he thinks that you thinking Luka is really good is like wrong or something.
Yeah,
but I have no idea. Like, I have no idea what your Luka.
Not,
I don't even know what your Luka take is, other than like 2 or 3 years ago, when I just used to make fun of you for not liking him.
Okay? Is that what we're gonna do?
No, clearly, but I'm saying like that's why like I have no idea where we're going here.
The only thing that I ever got wrong about Luka was apparently he had a bigger standard deviation than we thought.
Right. Oh, he said that Luka got fat after he got paid.
I mean, he was kind of fat before he got paid.
Yeah.
And also, he was always going to get paid because of how good he is. He would have, like, he could have signed after his rookie year. They would have happily given, like, just signed him to the max for as long as they possibly could, like a baseball contract. It's Luka Doncic. He's incredible. All righty. Now I still don't understand. Like, did I say that he wouldn't get fat if he signed a deal? Because I wouldn't bet against that at all.
Seems like a weird take.
Yeah. But like, if you're like, yo, do you think Luka gets fat if he signs a contract? I'd be like, yeah, probably.
And probably even if he doesn't, like, I don't think he was like just sitting around waiting to sign the deal. I think he kind of probably knew he was going to sign the deal regardless. And like you said, he's sort of never been a peak physical specimen.
No. Yeah, I don't know. I think he's just
kind of like how Nikola Jokic gets written off like at some point every season for being fat.
Yeah. It just makes no sense. All right. We got to talk about this now. This is going to take some time. It's not going to be fun rostering Portland today, but we're going to roster a lot of Portland. No Damian Lillard, no CJ McCollum. It's looking like no Yusuf Nurkic or Cody Zeller. Covington and Simons are back, as are Trendon Watford and Keljin Blevins. So we've got 50 to 60% ownership going to Anthony Simons across FanDuel and DraftKings. Luckily for you, Dennis Smith Jr. is 5,500 on DK, only 11% owned. Unlucky for me, Dennis Smith Jr. is 4K on FanDuel. He's 50% owned. Norm Powell is 40% owned on FanDuel, 28 on DraftKings. Larry Nance is about 10 across both. Robert Covington is pulling ownership on DraftKings. Nas Little is 4,700 on DK, projected for 17% ownership. Seems to me we're going to be playing a lot of Portland today.
Yeah, I would think so. Plenty of value here. We only have one game where McCollum and Lillard were both out this year, at least with Simons in. Simons played 19 minutes. Dennis Smith's played 2 games without them. He's averaged 40 minutes. So can't really read into that because obviously it was while Portland was dealing with other injuries as well. Looking at the last game for Portland, you got 24 minutes for Smith. I don't really know what to do with minutes here.
I mean, he's just going to start and play like 30 something, right? He has to.
Yeah, I would assume. So like, what do you think the starting lineup is?
Smith, Simons, Powell, either one of Covington or Little, and Larry Nance.
So you don't think Snell's starting?
Could. I don't know. It would be weird if he did to me, I think, now.
I mean, I just kind of assume that they used the same lineup from last game and replaced Lillard with one of Smith or Simons.
I guess that makes some sense. I mean, they're not going to start Snell over Covington, though, right?
They've been starting Snell over Covington.
Well, Covington's been out, though.
But even when he was in, Snell's been getting random starts.
I mean, Covington played 31, 34, and 32 was 3 before that. Snell was not playing that. Snell has only been playing for 4 games.
Yeah, but Covington's stuff was still all coming off the bench.
What I'm saying is, though, now with these guys back, I don't think that Tony Snell is going to be ahead of Robert Covington.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay.
And like, I think that Snell will then be behind just about everybody. I don't know. I mean, like, he might start. I gave him 14 minutes.
Right, yeah.
I don't
So
think it's going to be
to
all
be
that
clear, I
different
didn't
one way or
think.
the other.
Yeah, I didn't mean it's Snell going to start and play a lot of minutes. I just meant like, are they going to try and hold the second unit rotations kind of, steady?
I got a hit on this. He said your superstar should be in shape. He's a professional. Does that apply to anything other than sports? Like nobody gets mad at fat accountants. Like why do we care how anybody else wants to hold their like we think that he owes the viewing public of basketball something for being out of shape? Like you can say the same thing about any industry ever. Do I want people to get like more sleep and eat better? Yeah, but we don't yell at that other people in other industries for this kind of stuff, just sports.
Yeah, he said himself he needs to get in better shape. Yeah, but you're still talking about like NBA level conditioning. Like Luka is probably in better shape. I mean, I don't know people in chat. I would say there's a maximum of one person watching the show that's in better shape than Luka.
Yeah,
from like a conditioning standpoint. So him getting in better shape, yeah, like he could get in better shape, but he still is what he is, even in his current shape, and that's one of the best players in the NBA. So what are we talking about?
exactly. Oh God, it drives me insane. Insane. All right. Do you prefer Dennis Smith Jr. or Anthony Simons today? I guess on DraftKings, like it's Simons by default.
Yeah, Simons because he's cheaper. I think from a playing time standpoint, like they should probably be projected pretty similarly. And so it's going to make Smith look good and Simons look better just because he's cheaper.
Yeah, exit screaming. The public does not pay Luka Doncic's salary. Let's be clear here. The Dallas Mavericks do. We can say that the public pays everybody's salary in that regard. That's buying and selling of goods. A fat accountant might not be able to do his job. A hypertension, you're not thinking correctly. You're probably not as energetic when you're overweight as you could be when you're not. That's just simple stuff. You're certainly not going to do as good of a job if you're obese in comparison to fit. The fit's for every industry. No industries are like, you know what, we're going to be better off being fat.
My DFS results compared to yours speak differently.
Are we?
You can take that as a compliment or an insult, one way or the other. You can choose it.
I don't want to take it anyway. I'm in better shape now. The past 2 weeks, on the other hand, not great for me from a physical stature standpoint. All right. Assuming, like, let's say Dennis Smith doesn't start. That makes it pretty easy to get away from on DraftKings. If Simons doesn't start, what's your expectation for minutes still? Like 28?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Like if Smith starts and Simons doesn't, probably would do something like low 30s for Smith, upper 20s or around 30 for Simons. Like I still assume that the only people playing actual minutes or like a lot of minutes are Nance, Smith, Powell, Simons, Little, Covington.
Agreed.
And then McLemore probably is next, and then nobody else matters.
So who is your favorite play on Portland?
On DraftKings, Simons.
Okay. And then Powell?
Probably Powell, yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to look.
FanDuel, obviously, fire up all your DSJs and your Simons. And yes, I don't have a problem playing those two guys together. They're 4K and 3,700 respectively.
Yep. So I'm trying to see now how many minutes we have without McCollum, Lillard, or Nurkic since last year. And it's not agreeing. It's not wanting to do that. I'm sure it can't be that many, but I also feel pretty confident that Powell's usage is going to skyrocket.
Do you need me to do this for you? I can be better at it if you need me to.
No, it finally loaded. Powell's played 112 minutes without Nurkic, Lillard, or McCollum. He has a 30.3% usage rate.
I gave him 29 for the game just to make it a little bit easier, but I think he looks great. How do you handle rules for a Portland team here? Or do you even care?
All right, so Norman Powell's in the closing lineup, right? So it doesn't matter.
Right.
Little, I mean, so they could close with Little, Nance, and Covington. There's no issue there. So I for sure don't want more than two of Smith, Simons, and McLemore.
Right. I don't really think you need all that much. Yeah.
Yeah. So other than that, I'm not really sure that I care outside of the like normal, I don't want like four dudes from this team.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, you could really easily get a point guard, Powell, Covington, Little, Nance.
Yeah. Yeah. If this game's competitive, like them closing with a more defensive lineup isn't crazy to me.
Maybe max 2 of Smith, Simons, Covington. If we assume that Little is typically going to close over Covington.
Which even still might be.
I'm not sure how. Yeah, I don't know how confident I am in that assumption.
Yeah, because we don't even know how like functional Robert Covington is. He's only missed 3 games, but we have no idea how he's taking this.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like, so if you feel confident that Powell, Nance, and Little are all closing, then max 2 of everybody else. If you think that it's a lot more fluid with the front court guys, then I would just say max 2 of Powell, Simons, and McLemore.
Anything else for Portland?
No, I think that's it.
We're going to close this one out. The Minnesota Timberwolves, 2.5-point dogs in Los Angeles against the LA Clippers. For Minnesota, it's looking like we're going to have no D'Angelo Russell and no Karl Anthony Towns. Otherwise, everybody is available. I, at 8,200 on FanDuel, 7,700 on DraftKings, want quite a bit of Anthony Edwards, given those two guys being out. I've got a lot of interest in Naz Reid, 4,600 on FanDuel, 4,800 on DraftKings. You also get the power forward eligibility on DK. Happily give me a little bit of Pat Bev, 5,200 on DraftKings. Don't know if he should be in 26% of lineups, but I still like Pat Bev at 5,200. Jared Vanderbilt looking interesting too. Lots to like here for Minnesota if Russell and Towns stay out.
Yeah, for sure. We got Naz Reid back to playing a lot of minutes last night, just in time for his salary to drop even more. He played 30 minutes. Greg Monroe was not in the rotation. Nathan Knight played 12 minutes behind him. The closing lineup was small with Jaden McDaniels. Not too surprising, talking about a Lakers team that had LeBron at center. But you could certainly see similar stuff here where maybe they go small, but also where Reed is likely, I think, to play 30 minutes or so. Makes him look like a good value. 5,200 for Beverly, I think looks very good. Like you said, he's in a lot of lineups, or he's projected to be in a lot of lineups. And there are certainly alternatives at the point guard position. Like, I don't think that Beverly is drastically better than Dennis Smith Jr. Simons is obviously cheaper, but he's been productive this year. If Russell and Towns are still out, you're getting a really high assist percentage from Beverly as well. So those two really stand out. Edwards is an extremely high usage guy without those two on the floor. He played 38 minutes last night, which was good to see. So no real reason to expect him to be limited anymore in his return. Makes him look like a good tournament play as well. Beasley, Vanderbilt, both I think fine, but I would say Reed, Beverly, and Edwards are the priorities.
Yeah, we're on the same page. I gave Reed 28 minutes because if I gave him 30, it would be even more ridiculous. So I felt like 28 was just a little bit easier. It's just, I think Minnesota is one of the better options you're going to find today. There's heavy upside. There's value across the board, different positions. You can kind of get to all sorts of different things pretty easily. I love Anthony Edwards today, especially on DraftKings, shooting guard, small forward, 7,700. I don't think that 17% ownership is enough. I like him a lot more than the public does right now at that price tag and at that positional setup on DK. Team Anthony Edwards today. You know me, always really, really fond of Anthony Edwards. Should I light Chad on fire again by saying that he hasn't been good as a rookie or second year guy? Should I do that?
Nah, I think you might have just done that.
Yeah, we'll let it go.
Tony Snell or Mo Harkless, more fantasy points if your life depends on it. Not today, obviously, just in a general game where they're playing the same minutes.
Mo Harkless.
Yeah, same here. I don't think it's that close.
No, neither do I. I mean, like, they're both shitty, but Snell is like...
Tony Snell takes it to completely different levels.
Yeah, let's see where do I still have Tony Snell at the ass end of my entire model? Yes, Tony Snell has the lowest FanDuel fantasy point per possession rate of anyone that is in my entire model, which is 1,259 guys.
Tony Snell's at 0.61 DraftKings points per minute over the last 3 seasons. Tony Snell's at 0.55.
I got him at, Snell. I got Tony Snell, FanDuel 0.55, the lowest rate of anybody. Not ideal. Let's go to the Clippers. Let's close this bad boy out. For LA, no Paul George, no Zubats, no Kennard, Kawhi, Hartenstein, Boston, or Preston. Marcus Morris is back. Nick Batum, questionable. This Clippers team. Looking pretty good. Marcus Morris, heavily owned on DraftKings at 6K, 35%, in fact. Serge Ibaka, 3,700 on DraftKings, 31% owned. Let's have a conversation about that. That seems way too high. Terrence Mann pulling about 20% across both sites. Reggie Jackson is 6K on FanDuel. He looks like an incredible play on FanDuel, less so on DraftKings. What stands out most to you from the Clippers?
The salary on Ibaka is still very cheap. I mean, he only played 22 minutes last game in 3 quarters. He could play in the fourth tonight. He could not. But even if you get 22 to 24 minutes, he looks like a good point per dollar value. The ownership is a completely different story, as you were saying. The fact that he could just play 22 minutes means that if he is going to be really popular, maybe look elsewhere. But we also haven't had a ton of like good dirt cheap value on the slate. So I understand from a point per dollar standpoint, like why people are getting there. I think that Morris looks pretty good. He does take a hit with Reggie Jackson back, but still should play a healthy amount of minutes.
Yeah,
had to double check to make sure he was not on the injury report. I think Terrence Mann looks okay at 5,400, but plenty of guards I think I get to before him.
Yeah, if Ibaka's 31% owned, I think that's the easiest thing to get away from on this slate at that ownership. Still want to play him, still a good per dollar play. I gave him 22 minutes. To me, he's underwhelming. Like, I'll take that shot on unowned Onyeka Okongwu at the flat minimum.
Wait, what?
If I'm looking for like a GPP pivot that's, sub 4K, I'll roll the dice on an Okongwu lineup over the 30% owned Serge Ibaka playing 22 minutes.
I mean, I guess it kind of strikes me as a spot where, like, if you're giving me 30-1 odds on a bet, I'll take Okongwu, but
sure,
like that I also probably just can find easier ways to make a good lineup where I get Ibaka instead.
I think I would just not have Ibaka and just have a different guy in a different lineup construction is really the actual answer.
Yeah, okay, I think that's fair. It kind of reminds me of Obi Toppin the other day. Like,
sure,
if I give Ibaka 22 minutes, I get him projected for like 24 DraftKings points.
Yeah.
But it kind of just strikes me as the Toppin spot where, like, early in the day, we had Toppin at like 20%. And me and Greg were like, okay, if he's only going to be 20%, I think that's a good play. By lock, it had like doubled. We were projecting him for like 40%. And before late swapping, I had literally zero because it was just like, all right, I think he's a good point per dollar play, but I think there's like 12 other dudes that project within a couple points of him in his price range. And I'll just take my shots at those guys. So I can see that argument here, although there's not that many good sub 4K guys tonight either, I don't think.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, Mann, Morris, Jackson, like Jackson for 6K on FanDuel. That's a non-correct price with no Paul George. I think he looks exceptional there. I'm happily going to get to Jackson, Morris, Mann, and I mean Serge is 4K on FanDuel Power Forward Center, 32% ownership. I like him even less on FanDuel than I do on DraftKings. I ran my crunch earlier today. If Serge Ibaka is 32% owned, I got 5%. I am more than okay with that on FanDuel.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Anything else here for the Clippers or anything at all for this slate?
No, I think that's it. I just wanted to see how many games Morris has played without George and with Jackson this season. He's at 6, 24% usage rate, 11.6% rebounding percentage. Makes him look pretty good at 6K.
GPP videos, injury report videos, deeper dive later today?
Yeah, injury report I think will actually be out first. Greg just asked if we could record early. So in some order, injury report video, GPP video, and then deeper dive later.
The Los Angeles Lakers are finalizing trading Denzel Valentine to the Knicks as part of the Rondo to Cleveland deal. There you go. So thank you guys for joining us on the Strategy Show. First one for us in the new year. Make sure you're hitting that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, sign up for Yahoo. Awesemo.com/Yahoo-promo. We're both back later today for live shows. Adam for the deeper dive. I will be back for live before lock. Good luck tonight, everybody. Win that money. Adam and I will be back again here for this show tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern time.